Hey there YouTube, this is SJM4306 back with another review video. This time we are looking at the Robotic Overlord Future. Basically in a nutshell, this company Zoozee, they contacted me and asked me if I were interested in a robotic vacuum cleaner. And to be honest, fully disclosed, I actually bought not this exact model, but I bought one about maybe 2 years ago, and I was pretty underwhelmed by it. It was one of the cheaper models by some random company I never heard of, and I saw it at Costco, and I thought, it'd help my mom out because she's getting older, and she has arthritis, and it's getting harder for her to keep the house clean. So I figured I would get one for my mom, and we tested it out for about a week, and it was pretty subpar. It definitely wasn't worth. I think we had spent about 200 on it, something like that. So it wasn't great. So anyway, fast forward to about 2 weeks ago, and Zoozee contacted me, and they said they have a new model, and it's fancy. It has Lidar on it, like a laser scanning, so it'll actually scan the room and do all this funky stuff. And I thought, well, maybe I got a cheap one before, and maybe that's why it wasn't so good. So I thought I would give this one a chance because this is actually not a very cheap robotic vacuum cleaner. This currently retails, I believe, as of the filming of this video, about $3.99. So it's pretty much double the price of what the one that I got. And that one didn't have, it had IR beacons, I believe, so it can triangulate its position, and it had some sort of IR camera, but that one didn't really have like any kind of LiDAR. Whatever it used to map the room was pretty horrible. It was pretty primitive. But anyway, here's hoping that this one actually does the job right. This model, if you are interested, is the Z70. And just a little bit, it has like a massive battery, like over 5,000 milliamp hour battery. This guy weighs quite a bit, just lifting the box up. I have not opened this up yet. And this apparently has two tanks, one for like dust collection, and it also has a tank for water, so it'll actually kind of mop your floors for you, supposedly. And there is an associated app, which I will have to download and create an account for. So if that's one thing that you're kind of not keen on doing, downloading an app, on the Android or iOS store from a Chinese developer, and enabling it to access your phone and whatnot, and security issues are definitely a thing. If that's something that you have an issue with, this vacuum cleaner might not be for you. I believe it will work without the app. The app is just to like monitor it and to enable extra features. But anyway, we'll get right into that once I actually pop this open. Okay, here we have a little booklet, and it just has some warranty card, some QR codes for downloading the app, how to basically quickly set it up, and yeah, the instructions. Let it do its thing and figure things out as I go along. Anyway, here we have looks like a wet, kind of a mop attachment for the front there, and it has a picture of how to fill the tank and how to attach it. And this itself, yeah, is that mop attachment. And yeah, it's sort of like almost microfiber kind of cloth there. It has actually a replacement one, so it comes with two. Oh, I see. It just kind of hooks on the back there. There's like a little bit of extra material. This is the latching mechanism to actually slide it onto the unit itself. There are little tiny wheels on it too. Next up, we have the charging dock and dust bin. And so this supposedly will actually go up to its own charging dock, and when it's done vacuuming and set itself to charge, you just leave this plugged into the wall. You'd see these kind of springy metal pins. These will actually, when it touches it on the appropriate part on the unit, that actually transfers the electricity. And you can see it basically looks like there's a barrel jack for the actual AC plug. There's a LED indicator, and that seems about it. And this just sort of closes up and this sits against your wall. And here we have the tank. And it looks like it does have a pre-installed filter on there. And looks like, yeah, it's magnetically held in place. It's removable, so you can replace that. We'll have to see how much that costs to replace and how often it needs to be replaced. So let's see here. That's how you open it up. So it's just friction, and then you can dump it out. We have the AC adapter. Let's just see how much power this guy pulls. This is 20 volts, 1.8 amps. That's just under 40 watts. That's okay. Yeah, that has quite a bit of power. Nothing else in here. Nothing else in here. We have the main unit itself and the little brushies. So these attach to the bottom, and they allow it to get more of the if there's any dirt or dust kind of in the corners of the room. We'll see exactly how these work. They're made of rubber, it looks like, with a plastic insert, and the actual brushes are compliant a little bit. So we have the main vacuum itself here. Everything's very well packed, I will say. So it's actually a pretty nice looking unit. It has, if we look on the bottom here, 2 motor driven wheels. It has like a front swivelly wheel. And I guess these are the bits that the brush is attached to. It looks like they actually only use 2, so they give you 4, so 2 extra, I guess, in case they get messed up. And we have the main brush here, and it looks like we can pop this open to remove it as well. And it looks like it's actually interesting. It has the regular bristles that you'd expect to see, and then sort of a silicone skirt around them. And it's flexible. That is nice that it's actually really easy to open. Let's just see if I can insert it the wrong way. So it looks like, yeah, it can only be inserted one way. And this bracket has to go on like that. Okay, there is a mystery latch here. Looks like that's for another filter. Yeah, you need to kind of get your fingernails in there. And if we flip the unit over, so the interesting thing, the wheels actually are spring-loaded, and they do retract a little bit. So even if your floor is uneven, this will sort of self-balance. It sort of has like a suspension system. There is a tab here, and it says, please remove before using the robot. I'm guessing this is like for the battery. There's another little sticker thing here that just came off. I'm guessing there's a piece of plastic over it. This bit's the actual Lidar system, and that basically fires a laser. There's like a rotating drum inside, and it fires a laser around the room, and then there's like an optical system that can detect the time of flight for the laser, so it bouncing back off of an object back into the sensor. So basically it can map kind of two-dimensionally how far certain things are from the unit itself. So it looks like this entire thing opens up just like a hood of a car. Wow. And we have a card in here. Just informatics on how to, I guess, clean the filters and whatnot. Now this is cool. It actually has a mini blade. I'm not going to touch it. That'll cut me most definitely. If you get hair stuck in the bristles, you can use this to cut it out. And the coolest part is it lives in here, so you're never going to lose it. as long as you put it back after you're done. And we have the tank here. This is for the water. Let's see. Yeah, just lifts out easily. Looks exactly like the dust tank. It has its own filter. Looks like it actually has a sensor too, so it'll know. I'm guessing if it's full or empty. That's probably the empty sensor. And it has a rubber stopper here. And it has a rubber stopper here, so that's how you fill and empty it. That just clicks in. And this part, you actually pull out. And that's the bumper guard. So this actually does have, I'm guessing, at least one sensor on each side. So when it hits an object that doesn't show up on the scan, for instance, if there's some furniture, wood trim or something, if it hits that, then it can know that there's a wall to stop driving that direction. So anyway, there are a few instructions. It says power on, press and hold the home button and the power button for 3 seconds. Wi-Fi will be reset. So this also has Wi-Fi connection. And here it says short press, return home, pause, long press, spot cleaning. Short press, cleaning, pause, long press, switch on, off. So anyway, I'm going to actually get the base station set up, set this to charge, and actually use it for a little while. So I can get some impressions on how well it works or any problems that it's given me. Spy vac cam, go! Do you need some help there? Are you stuck or? Okay, there we go. Found its way out. Okay, so I've been using this guy. You might be wondering why I'm sitting on the ground. But yeah, this is its permanent home now. I've been using this guy for about a little over a month, actually. And I gave it plenty of time. I set up my entire floor plan and whatnot and got it all working with the app, which I have here on my tablet. And you can see it's fully charged. It's just sitting here. And I just leave it turned on and connected to Wi-Fi so that it can either auto-schedule or I can run manually cleaning routines through my smart device. But anyway, I have it plugged into the wall here, and if I just zoom up a little bit, you can see I have the adapter, right there. And so in use, so here's what I found. Things that I don't quite like, I guess we'll start out with. The charging base, I have like molding on the bottom there. You can see it's wood. And this base kind of tends to knock over because it's not flat up against the back. I'm actually going to probably either 3D print something that I can attach to the back so that it sits flush up against the wall, or just put some foam or something behind there, because quite often when this goes to back up to charge, it'll kind of knock that over and disconnect, or if someone bumps into this or something, it doesn't create a stable connection. This is more along the lines of, limitation of the molding that I have on between the wall and the floor there. But it is kind of annoying. This doesn't, it wiggles back and forth here, you can see. And it disconnects just that easily. One time, I must have bumped it in the morning or something, and when I came back, the battery on this guy was fully dead because it kept itself on, thinking it was charging, but it wasn't, because the actual black adapter part in the back kind of tilted backwards too far. So that's not so great. Other things I don't really like about this. So in the example footage that I showed, I think it became kind of evident there were some spots where it kind of tends to get stuck in. And namely, these are areas where, in between legs for, a chair or something like that, where it can't quite fit. It will eventually get out of those areas if you give it like 20 or 30 seconds. It keeps trying. It basically ends up using this bump sensor on the front and having to keep backing up and, turning it slightly at an angle and then trying again. But to get around that, I basically just drew inside the app. So if I go into the app, I can show you real quick. So if I just click on the device, you can see here my floor plan in my house. And I had to draw all these lines on areas where it could possibly get stuck. And I just occluded my family room entirely because there's just too many obstacles. It would spend like an hour just in this one little tiny room here. So what I ended up doing was, I'm just going to manually do that area. But it does the rest of the house. I've also had to, there's some area like here where the stairs are, obviously can't go upstairs. And one thing that I did notice that is a pain, I originally had it next to my bathroom. You can see it still thinks it's there, and it's actually not. So yeah, and it's actually sitting right now, right in this corner up here. I physically moved it, and it still seems to think it's here. So I'm probably going to have to erase this and start over again and have it remap the house. So I wish you could kind of pick up the charging icon and put it anywhere you want using the tablet. That would be awesome. Instead of now I have to basically retrain the entire house because it's not smart enough to know where it's physically located. There's not really a practical way it could know, honestly. So I'm not really blaming, just the technology isn't quite there yet to do something as complex as that. Overall, though, for if you have like a lot of open area that doesn't really have too many obstacles, it does great. I have a couple pictures of after running it through a couple rooms. I did both the zigzag and kind of just the parallel line algorithms for cleaning. And as you can see, it pretty much got the full area. These little whisker things work pretty well actually to get into corners and to get the dust away from the wall. So I'm pretty happy with that. There actually is ultrasound, I forgot to mention, on the front, and that's what it uses to, I guess, sort of as a front bump sensor, because it has the sensor on the sides as well. And it obviously has a Lidar on top, which spins. And that all seems to map out pretty accurately, surprisingly, any distant walls, so I can build the map. The algorithm does seem to sometimes get confused, and so I ran this. There were actually 3 firmware updates for this device during the month that I used this. The first one, I didn't really notice any problems, but I just basically set it up, and I didn't really run it too often. By the second update, I did notice it did glitch out at one point where when it was going right up against my piano has like obviously a gloss black finish on it, so it's highly reflective. So it got super confused and it teleported through the wall. It thought it teleported through the wall into my next door neighbor's house, which clearly did not happen, but it basically got confused, so I had to draw a line to prevent it from getting too close to my piano. Because it started getting super confused. So if you have like really reflective large surfaces, on your walls or whatnot, that might kind of screw things up. So you might have to manually draw lines to prevent it from going too close to those areas. And those virtual walls that you draw, those lines, the green lines in the map, they work exactly like that. It treats them as if there's a physical wall there, and it will refuse to go past that line. So that works exactly as I'd like. There is a mode, if I show you in one sec here, there's actually a couple modes. There's spot cleaning, so you can tell it to go to a certain spot and do that. Zone cleaning, so if I select zone, it'll draw a box and I can change the shape of the box, rotate it, to tell it to do a specific area, and just exit out of that. There's draw cleaning, which you can actually draw like a... there we go, just like a loop or whatever you want, and it'll do as much of that area as it possibly could, as long as it doesn't encounter any other obstacles. And additionally, we have smart partition. So this is generally how the algorithm works. It creates like subsections of rooms. I'm guessing there's like a maximum and a minimum that it needs to do, and then it does each section sequentially. So it'll do the bottom one, whatever's closest, basically it'll do, and then it'll go down to each of the different colors. And you can even change these if you'd like to match it up more with the lines in the room. It just automatically calculated that. Virtual wall is all these lines that I drew. And you can see they're just line segments, and you can drag each of the corners and line them that way. And this is what I found is the most useful. And we have restricted. And basically this is just saying I haven't actually used the mop. I have like natural hardwood floors, and I didn't want to risk any damage to it. But this is basically if you have both, if you have different areas, some that like linoleum that can be mopped, like wet mopped, and other areas like this hardwood floor that you don't want it to, you can tell it not to do different areas. So that is quite useful. There's actually a range of different modes. This button right here is, let me turn up the brightness. There we go. So this button at the bottom here, this is how you change kind of the speed. There's quiet, normal, high, and full. I just leave it on normal, and on my floors it seems to do a good job. It picks up everything visible. The second button, you can either have it do the Z shape, which is just kind of parallel lines, or grid, where it does actually each area kind of twice. First time horizontal zigzags, and then vertical. This takes clearly like twice as long, but it'll pick up more stuff. And the top button, if you have the water tank on, you can set the level of how much water it uses, it sprays out. At the top here, you can see there's the battery notification that it says it's 100%. I noticed for the full area of this house, I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head what that is. I have some screenshots of it running, so I'll put the number down below right now. But for it to go through and clean once entirely all this section here took around, I want to say like a little over half an hour, like 45 minutes maybe, and it used up about 25 to 30% of the battery. So this guy actually could run, a good 3 or 4 times my entire bottom floor of my house before needing to recharge. So that's definitely good. This has a pretty hefty battery here. And a quick way, you can always just tell it to automated start by hitting the clean button, and if you hit it again, it'll pause it. Or if you hit the recharge button, it'll stop what it's doing and then go back to the base to recharge. And here, there's actually quite a bit of settings. You can change everything. You can actually see the different filters that are on board. They are consumables, so you can actually see, it'll tell you how many hours left you have before it's suggested to replace them. So that's very useful. You can change the name of the device. You can look up, if there's a new firmware manually. You can look at cleaning history. So you can see here, it'll tell you whether it was manually stopped or if it completed by itself. and I believe you can just click on this and it'll show you the map. Takes a second, and yeah, it actually animates through and shows you it drawing the line there. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about the video quality on the tablet. This is actually a new phone that I'm using, and it's I'm getting used to configuring it to actually be visible and whatnot. But yeah, there's that. And you can see even the total number of cleanings it does. You can change the voice if you want, what language it speaks, the volume. And yeah, you can actually save maps. You can clear them, you can back them up. So if you actually want to use this for more than one floor in your house, you can actually set like a downstairs map and an upstairs map and manually load them. But if you only have one charger, you would have to mark where it's supposed to go. It's not smart enough to really know if you move the charger where its home is located, basically. That's the only thing that I think is kind of annoying. But yeah, if you wanted to kind of leave it on auto and not use the app itself, I would at least recommend downloading the app to configure it. And then after that point, you can delete the app. You do have to create an account for the app. And I know some people are a little bit iffy on that and might not want to do that. But I would suggest to those people just create a temporary email address. There are plenty of sites that do that for you, just to set up the application to log in, set your settings, and then you can delete that email account and delete the app, and you're good to go. As long as it's plugged in, you can always press these two buttons to get it to do pretty much any of the automated functions. You actually don't need the app itself. One thing about the tank is for my there you go, detects that I removed the tank. One thing that I don't quite like about this dustbin is the hole is always open. There's no flap or anything, so you have to be careful when you take it out. If it's like brimming full, it'll start coming out. So you have to keep that in mind. It is pretty easy to open, to use. You can see I did not clean this out the last time it vacuumed, and this is how much it picked up for one round of vacuuming my downstairs here. So I'm just going to shut that before that goes all over the place. And yeah, here's that other one of those consumable filters that I mentioned there. But yeah, it does seem to clean up quite a bit, and so I'm pretty happy with that overall. Now, the question is whether I think this is really worth the asking price. Now, when I got this was, I think it was on sale for about $400 or $450, which is kind of on the pricier end for these robotic vacuums. And since then, the price went back up to $500. So right now, as of the filming of this video, it's sitting at $499.99, something like that, on their Amazon sales page. So compared to the first robotic vacuum that I got, about a year ago that I got from Costco, that I believe was like $200 or maybe $250. That was, if I'm being honest, kind of a piece of crap. It continually banged into the walls, and it just had no idea where it was. It had these stupid little base stations that you had to use batteries in. So you had to place them around the room for it to like orient itself. It did not have Lidar or pretty much any other sensor. It had bump sensors like this, but it was pretty stupid, and we quickly returned that within about a week. This guy costing about twice as much, maybe a little more than twice as much as that. It really depends what your use case is. Let me just say that if you're getting this for a parent who can't or doesn't want to hire like a house cleaner and just wants to kind of have something to automatically vacuum for them, and they kind of have a wide open space, they don't have too much furniture, I think this is perfect for someone like that. And if they're unable to clean themselves due to, I don't know, old age or disability, something like that, this could actually be something that's really good. If you have like kind of a small house or like very crowded, you have a lot of furniture, a lot of obstacles, if you have like kids or pets or whatnot, this might not be such a great idea. It'll definitely struggle the more obstacles you throw in its path. For my house, I think it's kind of borderline. I think if it were a little bit cheaper, if it were about 300 to 350, I think that would be the ideal price for this. I think the 500 is a bit much, at least for how I'm going to use this. I'm going to give this to my mom because she has arthritis, and it's been getting more and more difficult for her to manually vacuum the house. So I'm going to give this to her and just generally set it up and have it, so all she has to do is uh, press a button and it'll clean. And all she has to do every once in a while, my dad can empty the actual tank inside, and that's it. So I think in that case, yeah, the price is a little bit on the high side. It definitely works significantly better than the cheaper vacuum that I used that did not have Lidar. So in terms of like the mapping capability, the app on this one is significantly more sophisticated. The other one, it basically had to bumper into every single wall all around your house in order to generate a map, which wasn't even that accurate. So this definitely worked better on that front, but it still has some problems. I would like to see how they develop this though, because I have a feeling we're kind of on the cusp. Give it maybe 5 more years, and I think these vacuums will be significantly more autonomous. You don't have to mess with drawing lines on the map. It'll be able to figure it out on its own. I think the limiting factor isn't necessarily the hardware, it's the software, it's the actual algorithm that uses to map out your place. If it were a little bit smarter, then I could definitely say $500, no problem, 100% worth it. And they are delivering like consistent firmware updates. Like I said, I got 3 within the past month that I got this, so they are definitely like fixing the issues. But I still think it has a little bit of a ways to go. So if you can find like a coupon for this, like even $100 off, $50, $100 off, I think that'll make it a little bit more palatable to pick one of these guys up, depending on your situation of your house, how it's laid out, what kind of furniture you have, hardwood or rug. I ran this over some like throw rugs on the floor, and it seemed to do kind of fine on that. It would kind of, these guys would get stuck on the corners sometimes, but it would make it up over. I don't have like an area that's fully carpeted to test this out on. I don't see an issue particularly. Let me just take this off for a second and turn it off.
Shutting down.
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I don't really see a technical issue with going on carpet. The wheels are actually pretty strong. It's able to, even if it's not quite level, each one independently moves up and down, and they're spring loaded. So I have a feeling that this will work just fine on carpet. But I haven't actually been able to test that out. And there are additional sensors here. I haven't tried this near stairs, just because I'm a little bit nervous on that. But there are a number of sensors on this vacuum that are supposed to be able to pick up on that, so it won't run itself off the edge. And another thing I really like about this is it's really low profile actually. So as long as your furniture is above, the tallest point on this is this laser assembly. As long as it's above that, it can actually go underneath furniture. So I had set this up upstairs, and I just had it vacuum under my bed, which is, trying to do that manually with a conventional vacuum sucks. Using this, it took like 5 minutes to do something that would have taken me like half an hour to manually do with a regular vacuum. So it's like certain niche cases this works so well on. I just wish overall kind of the mapping algorithm was a little bit smarter. I think maybe give this a little bit of time and a couple more firmware updates, and they might be able to fix that. But yeah, overall, it's sort of, I think it entirely depends on what your situation is, whether you should get this or not. I think definitely if you are looking for not just a specific brand, robotic vacuum, go for the ones with Lidar over the ones that don't have it, that just have ultrasound. Because the Lidar is so much more accurate in terms of how it maps and even how quickly it maps. It doesn't need to go to every single wall. It actually just kind of scans the entire room, whatever the range is, and it'll actually map the room as it goes along before it even gets to that wall. So I think that's generally a much more sophisticated way of doing it rather than just relying on the bump sensors and ultrasound like the cheaper ones do. Those, I think, are a little bit too primitive for the job. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed using this. I'm gonna pack it up and send it off to my mom's, and she'll use it. She'll definitely give me some feedback if it has trouble. I might have to intervene and modify the app to get it out of some problem areas. So yeah, not perfect, but in terms of the performance, it's worked better than I expected, if I'm being honest. But I don't really quite know if it's worth $500. I understand in terms of the hardware itself, it might cost a significant amount to build this. So in terms of the performance, it's sort of up in the air. It depends on what the situation is of the house that it's vacuuming. Anyway, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This was a little different than stuff that I normally review, but I did have my eye on getting her something to help her vacuum out my mom's house. So this just happened to fall into my lap and fit the bill, and I really did want to test one of these one day, especially since the disaster of the first one that we tried out, that was pretty bad. So this is light years ahead of the cheaper one that we used. I can definitely say that without a doubt. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and once again, huge thanks to Zoozee, I believe it's pronounced, the company that makes this. This is definitely a well thought out, well designed product. I think maybe just the price point and some of the software glitches need to be worked out a little bit, and then I would absolutely have no doubt recommending this to everyone. But anyway, yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.